Hi, I'm Nate and you're watching Photolearningism. I thought it'd be fun to continue working on some special effects idea, and why not? Let's take a look at lightsabers, shall we? Once again, I'm Nate. This is Photolearningism. Thank you so much for joining in. If it's your first time here, I do a lot of work on this channel to surface the cheap or free art technologies so that you can know about them and make good use of it. And also be a part of a community of learners, to be a part of a growing movement of people, like-minded people who are looking to gain new experiences and learn about new tools and new technologies, and we can do that together. So thank you so much for being here. All right, so special effects. We've been doing a little bit here and there with actually Kdenlive, which is a fantastic open source video editing tool. Go check that out if you haven't watched some of those videos already. But we're going to dig into some fun stuff. We've done a lot on how to use the tool and the interface and all that. Really, I'm trying to see how far we can go with special effects with the open source front without stepping too much into commercial products, just because it's kind of fun to see what you can do for free. So I'm going to begin actually here. This is not Kdenlive, but this is actually just paint.net. It's a very simple, another fantastic free open source tool. This is just a Windows, sorry everybody else. But this is the same principle that you could use for any image editor, whether you're using GIMP or Krita or something cross-platform. This is all the same idea. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to start by creating a new image that is the HD dimensions, 1920 by 1080, and I'm going to keep the resolution where it is. That's fine because this is just on screen, and then roll this back a little bit here. Now it starts you in this tool with a white background. I don't want that, so I'm just going to take that away from view and then add a blank layer to start. All right, next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to make the basis of my lightsaber, if I can say that. We're mimicking that effect. All right, trying to duplicate somewhat that on-screen effect. So let's see, what's a color that's not very common that we see? Why don't we go with kind of a orange? I don't know, I mean, not many orange lightsabers out there that I'm aware of, probably for good reason. So let's start then by making a basic shape, and this really doesn't have to be anything perfect, and I'll show you why. We're just making a kind of like a starting point here. All right, so first thing that we need to do is make something white. That's important because that's our background. All right, so I'm just going to fill this space with white. I'm going to add a new blank layer here, and then I'm going to keep some of the shape that we have. I'm just going to carve out the middle of it, and then on the outer side, that's what we're going to fill with orange. All right, and I'm going to take away the selection, and then I am going to just give that some Gaussian blur and make that just kind of a nice blend of things here. Now what I might do to make it a little more prevalent here is just duplicate that a couple of times to give it a little boldness, because that's more what I'm after here, to make sure you can see it. And that's the basic idea here. I might try to blur that just a bit more because it doesn't look as faded as I would hope. That's a little better. Good. Okay, great. We have our opening blade. I'm going to save that as a PNG, and that's important because you need to maintain the background transparency. That'll become important, and you'll see why very soon. This is obviously not where we need to be, so let's hop over here to my projects. And lightsaber orange PNG. Good. Okay, part one is done. Now, this is Kdenlive, and I'll show you my initial experiment here of what I was able to do. This is not perfect. This is just me playing around to see, is this even possible? And I was very happy to show that yes, it is. So this is very much the idea of rotoscoping, but you don't have to draw every frame. You're actually tween animating with the motion controls and using, in principle, the graphic that I just created. I did the same thing with green, just so you can kind of see this, and I want to do it again here in front of you with the orange. So I am going to disable that layer. I did a rough test here with a pen. It was very late at night, and I was very tired, and that's why I don't look so excited in this video footage. Probably had better days, but that's why. So I'm just waving a pen just so you can see what's going on. Now, let's go grab the image that I just made. There we go. And I'm going to drag that onto my timeline. We do not need that much of it, so I'm just going to snip away what we don't need. And there we go. So right now that gives us this. So you can see how it has still that kind of fuzziness to it, the kind of the aura, and it is transparent on the background. So you may have played around with the transform controls if you played with Kdenlive before, but you also may have realized if you've done that, there is no perspective control. Aha! There is another type of effect, which it took a little bit of research, but it's called corners. And it does a similar thing to the transform, except that it now gives you that control of doing perspective manipulation with keyframes. See where this is going? So we can have a very basic start here. Okay, so we go to our frame 1, and you're going to notice some things out of the gate, and we're going to walk through them. First of all, as I start to move this, whoa, what happened? Okay, that's actually normal because of the way the transparency is working within this control. Don't worry about it. So what we do with that is we scroll to the bottom of the effects over here. We need to change the interpolator to nearest neighbor. This is the kind of pixel accommodation that's happening as you're transforming it. And then the last thing is the alpha operation, which you'd think right on clear makes the most sense, but actually you want minimum. There we go. Now we get what we want. And really from here, this becomes very, very simple. It is just a matter of literally creating the keyframes you want to match the motion that you are working with. Now, if you're going to attempt this, I'd say use something bigger than a pen. This was a proof of concept. Use a rod if you can, because you'll need that to really estimate the length and depth of lightsaber as you're moving in 3D space. But this is a very simple test, and we can demonstrate why the perspective is important in this case, even in a two-dimensional example where I'm just going back and forth. All right, so to frame 1, let's hop to that. And I am going to just start bringing my points in, and let's get our shape on the canvas here. Now, it may take you a little bit of getting comfortable with this control. It does not have that little crosshairs that the transform does, so that kind of gets a little bit of a nuisance, because sometimes, yeah, you wish you could just drag the whole shape. It's a concession. But it works. All right, so you can kind of see how I'm trying to position this, and I won't bore you with all the details. I showed you it's possible with my other one, but essentially what happens here is you would make your starting shape based on the positioning of your prop within 3D space, and it can take a little bit of doing here and there. All right, so I have my starting frame, and what I'd suggest you do is do this a clip at a time, a shot at a time, and move all the way to the end to where the movement is done. Create your keyframe. Let's move over there, and this will save a lot of time as you want to animate the in-between, because then you're just making adjustments to fit the movement. That's a lot easier than trying to work all the way through. So again, I'm just trying to line this up, and I'm not going to do this so perfectly because you can get the idea, and I don't want to bore you with this. That's not the object here. All right. I'm trying to get around this control here. It's kind of getting in my way, so I'm just going to back off for a second. Here we go. Okay. And you do have the ability, as you may have seen in other videos, to zoom in or zoom out, so you can get a little finer with your points if you have to. If I really wanted to be really meticulous about what I was doing, I could move in closer. You have scroll bars the closer you get, and just make sure that I'm matching up in the best way possible. You could do that. I'm being very loose here just to get the concept across. All right. I'm going to pull back out. All right. So then what we can see that we have produced, and this is not going to be perfect, but you can kind of see how there's a motion track. There's already an animation here. And in the middle, we just kind of need to start making the big adjustments. All right. We can see that by there I haven't moved yet. So what I'd want to do is find where the motion starts. Somewhere out here. Wow, I held that for a long, long time. There I go. You can just start to see it moving. Alright, so that's where I'm going to make another keyframe, and that is where you would want to move things back to. Now, I mentioned the perspective is important, and the reason that is that as you move something, particularly in the position of an arc, as I am like this, the motion will respond differently on camera. And when I mean respond, I mean that there's a waviness movement where the tip of it is almost like a fulcrum, so to speak, where I'm spinning it more like this. So there's going to be more motion on the top, but that also means there's more tearing, there's more drag across the frame as it's captured. So you actually need to compensate for that while you're moving. So just to give you that example, in the movement you can see how it's very blurred because it's in motion. So if you've watched any degree of Star Wars movies, you know that that perspective is a big deal to simulate where it is in space, particularly to show that it's in movement. So what we can do with this perspective then is we can actually make it bigger on top and smaller on the bottom to make up for that. A little bit of refining here for me to do with my points, but you can get the idea here of how this is going and how you can actually get that idea of motion moving back and forth. And that really is the concept here. This is I'm applying it to an overlay technique here, so that really that spans beyond this example. You could do kind of the laser or the blaster rifle type thing, really any kind of projectile light object, and not necessarily even a light object. If you could get your hands or draw yourself on a high quality object that you want to simulate animation in post, same principle applies. We did a gun flare tutorial, which go watch that one if you haven't seen that, to get a sense of the flying bullet shell and the muzzle flare, and get that idea with just a couple of frames and some animation of masking off. So that's some other principles that you may need to apply, by the way, even with this approach, that where the motion you may not be able to compensate with your image graphic, you may need to simulate more arcing. That you can do with masking. You can actually draw in the shape to get more of a circular motion to it if it comes to that. I don't really have that in this example. This is the closest I can get for now, but it's worth watching so you understand how masking works, especially when you're working with effects. So that is really the premise. I was really thrilled to find out that there's a way you could do perspective-based transformation within Kdenlive. It just opens up so much fun that you could have, especially if you want to tell stories this way, or if you just want to play around with visual effects. This is free stuff, Kdenlive. The image I just drew myself. So if you want to dress it up even more, theforce.net, if you've come from any kind of fandom from the Star Wars universe, is still out there. If you do a search out there for theforce.net, along with lightsaber effects, they still have an arsenal of fan-based sound effects that you can use in your fan films, so you don't have to recreate them or thief them off movies. It's there. Go get them. There's blaster effects. There's some really kind of cool stuff that you can experiment and learn and try out storytelling techniques, particularly of that genre, if you want to play around with the Star Wars fan film idea. So once again, I am Nate. This is Photolearningism. I'm really happy that you joined me for this video and to see this concept that I've discovered, and I hope it opens up new horizons for you as well. If it was interesting, give me a thumbs up so I can know that this is worth exploring. Maybe we'll try out some other visual effects concepts and ideas. If you have an idea, let me know in the comments, and we'll try it out. We'll see what we can do. Also consider subscribing so you don't miss out on those when they come around. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I look forward to seeing you at the next video. Take care.